I declare that the 518th Convocation of McMaster University for the conferring of degrees is now in session.
Please be seated. Good morning. I am David Wilkinson, the Provost and Vice President Academic at McMaster. This morning I have the great pleasure of serving as your Master of Ceremonies and welcoming you all to this Convocation ceremony. Before we start our formal program, may I first ask everyone in the hall to switch off any electronic device that may ring or beep during the ceremony. I would now like to call upon our Chancellor, Dr. Linton Wilson, to make his welcoming remarks.
A very good morning to you all. President, Vice Chancellor, Provost, Dean Sutherland, Honorary Graduate, members of the Platform Party, graduands, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to this 518th Convocation of McMaster University. To our graduates, congratulations on your successes on reaching an important milestone, an exciting milestone in your lives. Many of you will begin careers, embarking on new journeys. Some of you will be continuing your education, training, or preparation for more advanced or specialized activities. The very best of luck to each and every one of you. To the parents, grandparents, family members, spouses, and friends here today, I invite you to take a bow as well. You can be proud of the roles you've played in the accomplishments being recognized in this convocation. To faculty and staff, today marks tangible recognition of your efforts, particularly the successes of your students evident in this ceremony. Thank you and congratulations. This is a day of celebration. I wish you all an enjoyable morning. Thank you.
I would now like to introduce Dr. Patrick Dean, President and Vice Chancellor, who will be presenting our honorary degree recipient.
Mr. Chancellor, by the authority of the Senate of McMaster University, I have the honor to present Mladen Vranic. Dr. Vranic, please come forward. Mladen Vranic, a Professor Emeritus of the Departments of Physiology and Medicine of the University of Toronto, is an internationally renowned figure in the field of diabetes research, who was the last postdoctoral fellow to work with Dr. Charles Best, a co-discoverer of insulin and the founder of the Canadian Diabetes Association. Dr. Vranic's research on diabetes has been both diverse and revolutionary. His discoveries concerning the relationships among exercise, stress, and diabetes have had tremendous impact on individuals who suffer from this disease. His groundbreaking studies have made it easier for people with diabetes to compete in Olympic Games. He has developed tracer methods that have revolutionized the field of glucose turnover in physiology and diabetes, and his leadership of the first international symposium on exercise and diabetes promoted evidence on the preventative link between the two. Dr. Vranic discovered extrapancreatic glucagon, thus changing the accepted view that pancreatic hormones are synthesized in only one gland. Dr. Vranic also identified mechanisms whereby muscle and liver are protected from the consequences of hyperglycemia, and he is currently developing methods to prevent hyperglycemia in type 1 diabetes. Dr. Vranic, who has been an invited professor at the University of Geneva and the University of Oxford, has delivered more than 170 invited lectures and symposia, published more than 215 peer-reviewed articles and 70 book chapters, and has served as the editor of 7 books and conference proceedings. He has served as the associate editor of respected journals, including the American Journal of Physiology, where he was the first Canadian to hold that position, the Canadian Journal of Physiology and Pharmacology, and Metabolism. He is also an influential supervisor and mentor, having trained a large number of graduate and postdoctoral students and collaborated frequently with younger scientists, some of whom have become world leaders in diabetes research, including the presidents of the Canadian, American, and Japanese diabetes associations. An officer of the Order of Canada and a member of the Order of Ontario, Dr. Vranic is also a laureate of the Canadian Medical Hall of Fame. He has been the inaugural recipient of a number of honors, including the Canadian Diabetes Association's Lifetime Achievement Award, the Banting and Best Memorial Award, and the Mizuno Lectureship and Award from Japan. He is the only Canadian to receive the American Diabetes Association's Banting Medal and Lectureship for Distinguished Scientific Achievement, as well as the association's Albert Reynolds Award. Dr. Vranic also received the Solomon A. Burson Distinguished Lectureship from the American Physiological Society. Dr. Vranic holds honorary degrees from the Karolinska Institute in Stockholm and the universities of Zagreb, Toronto, and Saskatchewan. He received the Queen Elizabeth II Diamond Jubilee Medal and has been named the Canadian-Croatian Chamber of Commerce Professional of the Year. He is a Fellow of the Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons of Canada, the Royal Society of Canada, and the Canadian Academy of Health Sciences. Mladen Vranic is a giant in the field of diabetes research and therefore a significant figure in the lives and futures of the approximately 370 million people living worldwide with this chronic disease. Mr. Chancellor, in recognition of his leadership and research accomplishments in this important field, I ask that you confer upon Dr. Vranic the degree Doctor of Science, honoris causa.
Mladen Vranic, by the authority of McMaster University Senate, I have the great pleasure to confer upon you the degree Doctor of Science, honoris causa, in McMaster University with all the rights and privileges pertaining to that degree. Congratulations to you. Come and sign. It's now my pleasure to invite Dr. Vranic to deliver the Convocation address. Dr. Vranic.
Thank you. Eminent Chancellor, Mr. President, honored graduates, ladies and gentlemen, I'm moved and deeply grateful to your university for both the honor of this degree and also for the opportunity to address this convocation. I am particularly privileged that 4 of my former students or fellows are now professors at this university. There is no greater pleasure for a researcher than to have students that are so successful, both as researchers or specialists. Your university was founded 127 years ago and has since had a long and illustrious history of achievements in education and research. McMaster's research activities exceed those of schools twice its size. Its particular strength is in field of health sciences. Graduating from university is always among the most memorable occasions in anyone's life. Let me begin, therefore, by offering you my warmest congratulations. While I'm most familiar with the medical school, I have also taught classes to students of dentistry, nursing, and I have mentored and given lectures to many graduate students. One of the things that has endured is the remarkable quality of the students. However, even your prodigious ability to learn will be tested in the years ahead. Innovation and research are transforming all the disciplines at a rapid pace. Thus, while this is an exciting and promising period, it also poses challenges. I believe one needs to have some understanding of the history of advances because it gives us an important perspective. One of the greatest scientific events at the University of Toronto, and in fact globally, was the discovery of insulin in 1921 in our Department of Physiology in Toronto. A number of students and some more senior staff were convinced for some time that I personally participated in the discovery of insulin. However, contrary to popular myth, I'm not 120 years old yet. At the same time, I happily acknowledge that this discovery not only had a profound effect on the world, but also altered the course of my life. I'm very honored that I was the last postdoctoral fellow of Professor Charles Best, as mentioned, a co-discoverer of insulin. I'm a physiologist, and my research focused on diabetes. A few years ago, we realized that there are epidemics of diabetes around the world, mainly due to lifestyle changes. I urge you to take time to learn the human stories behind various discoveries that have shaped science and healthcare. Your appreciation of changes in knowledge base of your profession will be greatly enhanced if you can put new advances into perspective. Aside from sense of perspective, what else might help you to thrive in the years ahead? I do not have any magic formula, but I would go so far as to suggest 3 keys to a fulfilling life: passion, originality, and perseverance. Let me start with passion. It is equivalent of a GPS for the road of life. Sometimes it may take a little while to recognize what are you actually passionate about. Some 50 years ago, I stumbled into the field that was to become my life's work. I have never regretted for one instant my commitments. It has been a wonderful journey, and I hope years ahead are as fulfilling. Yours will be as fulfilling as mine. The second attribute I believe will help start your course is originality. The great American poet Robert Frost, in his famous piece, The Road Not Taken, captured what I have seen so many successful people do. He writes, "I shall be telling this with a sigh. Somewhere, ages and ages hence, 2 roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference." Indeed, all of us are always facing major choices. Please consider taking the road less traveled. This is the route to originality, which in my opinion is the key to make a difference in any discipline or any profession. I come now to the final key. Let's assume that you have found what you are passionate about and that you have innovative and original ideas. I believe there is something else equally important, and that is or even more important, perseverance. Life can be unfair and it can be tough. It is not easy to get original ideas accepted. I titled a recent retrospective, Odyssey between Scylla and Charybdis through storms of carbohydrate metabolism and diabetes. You may recall that Scylla and Charybdis were two sea monsters in Greek mythology described by Homer. They were located close enough to each other that they posed an inescapable threat to passing sailors, including Odysseus. Avoiding Charybdis meant passing too close to Scylla and vice versa. Life is full of such challenges. You need the legendary strength and perseverance of Odysseus to avoid being devoured by sea monsters. But you can and must persevere. After all, sometimes things aren't as bad as they seem. About 20 years ago, I had a stroke. On the second day, a neurologist told my wife that the prognosis was terrible because I had been unable to answer even simple questions. My wife asked what questions I had failed to answer. The neurologist replied that I had been unable to identify the parts of a watch, face and hand. To which she replied, "He's an immigrant. He never learned those words. Try asking him about diabetes." In a moment, the neurologist returned with a big smile, saying, "He's perfectly normal." I'm not sure I have ever been perfectly normal, and I still haven't learned the different parts of the watch. However, I did go to some of the best years of my career after that serious illness that turned out to be less serious than was first imagined. The message here is simple. Be sensible. In my opinion, the most important is to keep a sense of humor. Remember that Canada is an incredibly diverse and multicultural country where not everyone will be perfectly fluent in English. And above all, be optimistic. The best is yet to come. And I wish you nothing but great success and happiness from this magical day forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vranich, for those words of wisdom. Dr. Vranich told me earlier that he is embarked on a very special project at the moment, and that is to write his memoirs, his life story. And I know he has many facets to that story, but it's evident that the life you've lived is well worth telling about, talking about. So I look forward, Dr. Vranich, to reading your life story. You've honored us this morning by being with us and accepting a degree from McMaster, and we thank you very much for that and for your words of wisdom. Thank you again.
Dr. Patrick Dean will now come forward to present the graduands to our Chancellor for admission to their degrees.
Will the graduands please stand? Mr. Chancellor, on behalf of McMaster University Senate, I present to you these candidates in order that you may confer the appropriate degrees upon them, and I bear witness that they are worthy and suitable.
Graduands, By my authority and that of the McMaster University Senate, I have the great pleasure to admit you to your individual degrees in McMaster University with all of the rights and privileges pertaining to those degrees. My sincere congratulations to you all. Please be seated.
Mr. Chancellor, on behalf of McMaster University Senate, may I also request that you confer the appropriate degrees in absentia upon all those candidates who have successfully completed the required course of study, but who are not present.
I declare all these degrees conferred in absentia.
Graduates, I now ask each of you to join me on stage so that the Chancellor and I may welcome you into the McMaster community of scholars.
Ladies and gentlemen, it would be appreciated if during the presentation of graduands, you would hold your applause to the end of each degree category. Thank you. Mr. Chancellor, may I present to you the following graduates of the degree Doctor of Philosophy: Melanie Liu, Madeline Dana Lee, Andrew Clark, Liliana Franca D'Amiglio, Kathleen Mary Mulligan, Justin David Crane, Catherine Diane Curry, Elizabeth Ann Sanley, Blake Edward Butler. Anne-Marie Renee DePape. And John George Grundy. Mr. Chancellor, may I present to you the following graduates of the degree Master of Science. Mudra Bhatt. Alex David Conity. And Mark James Fonterfaken.
Mr. Chancellor, may I present to you the following graduates of the degree Bachelor of Science Honours. Sam Afkami. Morgan Alexandra Cooper Afonso. Carrie Ann Alexander. Danielle Allen. Navira Ahmad. Christina Amarata. Blake Björn Anderson. Sabah Aslam. Nadine Asmis. Felicia Asenza. Laura Chisholm Aziken. Nima Azizi. Samanthi Balachandran. Carling Manza Baxter. Ashley Michelle Beccivello. Sarah Jane Benjamin. Arjun Bharat. Anika Bhargava. Sharma Bhatia. Sukanya Biswabrati. Pedro Enrique Boesquevisque. Vanessa Bonsu. Brittany Borowiec. Stephen Raymond Botts. Celeste Bouchard. D. Gray Boyko. Kevin Brady. Paul Brodjick. Melanie Victoria Brown. Tristan Matthew Bullard. Paige Sabrina Burgess. Navneet Butter. Mackenzie Lauren Boutineau. Gary Chan. Caitlin Ann Chan. Catalina Chan. Shirley Chan. Kriti Chandna. Gabriella Chang. Salima Chatur. Lucy Chen. Tin Nok Natalie Ching. Arnold Cheung. Sumaya Safi China. Andrea Chiu. Justin Kyle Chiu. Tiffany Elizabeth Cho. Stephanie Chu. Mackenzie Elaine Churchill. Emily Stephanie Crate. Chelsea Grace Cross. Christina Crowley. Rachel Micheline Cullen. Elizabeth Joanne Suriel Tejada. Vanessa de Souza. Yagmanpreet Dang. Timothy Dang. Martin Christoph Daniel Ivad. Claire Danukar Yanto. Kimberly Louise Darcy. Emily Davidson. Alisa De Luca. Erin Elizabeth de Reuter. Shashwat Atulbai Desai. Christina Louise de Velis. Suktip Singh Dami. Ngawang Dagyal. Omar Dimasi. Crystal Mart Krasimir Dimitrova. Melanie Frances Marie Dorval. Irina Dubelt. Vlad Drabinin. Aubrey Liam Duncan. Kristen Marie Durafil. Devin John Zelme. Sobika Iaswaran. Amanda Murada Efat. Todd Elogio. Gillian England Mason. Peter Farag. Kirsten Margaret Farncombe. Kathleen Feather Adams. Mary Fernandez. Maria Ide Fernandez Padilla. Melanie Barbara Fox Chen. Grace Eileen Franchetto. Zi Yi Fu. Travis Thomas Henry Fuchs. Eunice Hinyen Fung. Adam Takeo Furukawa. Melissa Diane Gondolfo. Amy Marie Gerich. Kathy Gaja. Niyusha Gamami. Vanessa Joanna Gilia. Melanie Tara Glazer. Mansi Gohil. Wajika Gohir. Raphael Paul Goliambowski. Victor Gordon. Lindsay Elsa Gott. Gordon Xavier Gray. Kristen Gritani. Daniel Luc Gay. Etta Haley Gonzalez. Rachel Elizabeth Goosbears. Maria Elisa Haikalis. Andrew Hanoun. Javier Kaur Hans. Priya Girish Hattai. Kieran Forrest Healy. Danitza Heath. Isiri Herat. Luis Cam Fei Ho. Megan Hopking. Siming Hao. Carly Josephine Hotovenko. Kevin Hua. Amanda Huang. Courtney Hum. Claudia Hung. Alexander Hines. Carla Laura Yanucci. Melanie Barbara Yarochi. Shah Mehran Iqbal. Ronald Ireland. Jade Irvin. Narina Jabari. Fairouz Jamal. Helena Jacoba Janse van Rensburg. Shreya Jarasimya. Jeremy Jensen. Agustina Yorkera. Michael Jason Emmanuel Joseph. Martin Henry Leon Cass. Lauren Veronica Calvitis. Simran Paul Singh Kang. Sarah Kanji. Yanki Kapadia. Mina Karabit. Tamina Karim. Ruandi Marianne Karyawasam. Yanushka Karunaratne. Ryan Michael Kelly. Kevin Kemp. Michael James Kennedy. Minhaj Shireen Kaiser. Mohammed Mushtaq Kandwala. Jordan Kanket. Gada Khatab. Yosef Khawam. Shokhag Vartan Kudigyan. Dong Hyun Kim. Jimin Kim. Paul Sung Jun Kim. Matthew Kinley. Kelly Coe. Alicia Rachel Korkowski. Victoria Natasha Kotick. Elizabeth Mary Kravchuk. Vicky Kwan. Jessica Su Jin Kwan. Claire Capewell Lachina. Ashley Lai. Ricky Lally. Nicole Christine Lalingo. Janice Kit May Lam. Jessica Wing Yin Lam. Emily Elizabeth Landon. Patrick Langiel. Jason Howard Langvey. Daphne San Yin Lau. Dongjun Lee. Young Kuk Lee. Michael Joseph Lee. Jeffrey Leon. Amanda Lindo. Yang Li Yu. Rebecca Mary Lowe. Alexandra Luby. Michaela Ann Louis. Darren Bradley Lung. Madeline Hannah Lynch. Patrick James Lyons. Rebecca Catherine Mary McIntosh. Elspeth McLachlan. Peter Mai. Christina Kimberly Maximitz. Elena Erini Mandrapailias. Andrew Manoharan. Joseph Emerson Capellan Marinas. Susanna Matthews. Reina Abigail Matisse. Gabriela Francesca Martina. Linnea Mauro. Megan Elizabeth Mavor. Michael Douglas McAlpine. Cameron Nicholas McCann. Richard John Frederick McCracken. Matthew Philip MacDonald. Stacey Marie MacDonald. Alicia Marie McMullen. Jennifer Mead. Joseph Daniel Mentlick. Kyla Merim. Selena Michich. Michael Christopher Mielnik. Deanna Helen Minavini. Mila Mirceta. Davina Mistry. Mohammed Usman Murad. Jessica Dawn Morena. James Alexander Morrison. Michelle Verasimo Mota. Omar Murad. Rameshe Mubasha. Myra Munawar. Christine Munro. Matthew Musters. Elizabeth Harumi Nagai. Bessie Nair. Siddharth Nath. Swatilecha Nath. Eric John Neely. Jordan Carl Nelson. Rukia Nelson. Cecilia Nguyen. Jenny Nguyen. Catherine Ling Nguyen Pham. Megan O'Connor. Collins Okakbare Ogor. Ania Beta Bashi Okon U Omoa Meren. Chin Yung Or. Sana Ovais. Amy Angeli Pachaye. Arjun Paliwal. Gulam Abbas Ayazali Panju. Madhur Parashar. Trevor Parch. Navangi Patel. Roshni Patel. Joshua Jonathan Stanley Patanode. Patrick Renzo Pierce. Cheyenne Maria Pereira. Stefan Pereira. Maria Pasevsky. Amandeep Farawaha. Bartolomei Piekarski. Monika Karolina Polakowska. Balaruban Pubalasundram. Stephen Donald Potvin. Hannah Dasha Prabhakaran. Brendan Peter Pinenburg. Angela Chin. Chenje Chiu. Talha Qureshi. Pavalam Rajendram. Nagisan Rajendran. Neetu Singh Rakra. Vineet Rokra. Sonia Julia Ramondino. Zainab Rangwala. Dylan Ratnakumar. Ramon Aiden Norman Reiner. Jessica Robertson. Kathleen da Silva Rodriguez. Milza Rodriguez. Rachel Roque. Adam Romanovsky. Andrew John Royce. Alicia Safarali. Shikha Sahajpal. Manpreet Saini. Kelsey Gillian Santerre. Sabina Santhirakumoran. Anthony Scalia. Brian Kirk Seafure. Shalini Sena Vera Urtenye. Suveta Cynthia Vasan. Brent Suraj. Rida Shahzad. Vivian Jia Wing Shan. Rajan Sharma. Julie Shea. Keshini Siva Prakarasara Pillai. Kate Bernadette Slaman. Lisa Sleiman. Laura Marlene Slezak. Sierra Rose Smith. Irena Maria Solias. Gillian Hunter Sonnenberg. Christopher James Spencer. Suja Sri Satgun Araraja. Venuja Sri Retna Kumar. Emily Hamill Stacey. Angela Nicole Stanton. Caitlin Brianna Stormont. Bhavini Taylor. Jeffrey Tan. Irene Tang. Heli Tank. Andrea Tankel. Dominic Tavares. Shiva Ranjanjani Kritika Tilarayajan. Erica Jade Thorne. Judy T. Trang. Marie Tran. Mei Ling Tran. Dylan Frederick Thomas Trow. Devona Truong. Bonita Kai Tsai. Genevieve Hin Ha Tsu. Monica Uday Kumar. Brianna Kera Unda. Randy Hendrik van Omeren. Shannon Vautour. Ryan Fienendahl. Christina Luisa Velasco. Christopher Ryan Malikse Vergawa. Nathan Vieira. Alexander Elias Vlahos. Mark von Almen. John Ross Wrabienski. Robin Ann Opal Wakelin. Emma Wallace. Michael Wang. James Michael Warburton. Emily Rose Warren. Christopher Cullen Welsh. Kathleen Francis Williams. Martina Volska. Nadia Poka Wong. Rachel Wong. Tatiana Y. Ying Wong. Ya Tian Adriana Wong. Poshan Frida Wu. Stephanie M. Wu. Shi Yang. Prasideth Yim. Matthew Yan Ho Yu. Stephen Siu Chun Yu. Anna Zhao. Before proceeding to the next category, I'd like to apologize personally for the two people whom I performed a sex change operation on. They know who they are, I think. Mr. Chancellor, may I present to you the following graduates of the degree Bachelor of Science, Kinesiology Honours. Taryn Elizabeth Arson. Nicholas Renato Acitone. Mitchell Ryan Anderson. Patricia Cheryl Andrews. Sierra May Anstruther. Kamal Arif. Rebecca Ausman. Rebecca Babcock. Jasdeep Bajwa. Stephanie Kimiko Ball. Leah Rosemary Barbaro. Euphemios Matthew Barbas. Shalene Bashkaran. Emily Joy Baturin. Jessica Daisy Beale. Lisa Danielle Beasley. Gillian Mary Beaton. Jasjit Kaur Birk. Stephanie Bognar. Benjamin Irvin Brookshaw. Laura Elizabeth Brown. Austin James Cameron. Kevin James Carlisle. Chantel Louise Carnegie. Catherine Kar-Yan Chan. Morgan Samantha Chin. Catherine Lydia Chino. Leslie Ann Clark. Danielle Cletus. Emma Patricia Coburn. Ovidio Cosmin. Samantha Nicole Costabile. Scott Christopher Coughlin. Michael Frank Delia. Natalie Teresa Disabella. Lauren Eleanor Davey. Chantal D. Kaitala. Kristen Ann de Vries. Kara Prabjot Daliwal. Brianne Louise Deemert. Lindsay Taylor Demopoulos. Era Estrada. Sarah Christine Fingland. Eric Alexander Fram. Michelle Jennifer Fraser. Amber Freety. Erin Lynn Francis Fuller. Ryan Stephen Garcia. Anthony Gatti. Catherine Elaine Gibson. Jacqueline Marie Gilpin. Chelsea Goodliff Goodenough. Jenny Lee Jane Graham. Michael Green. Amanda Grube. Bradley Ronald Gunter. Tanya Gustau. Sing Yen Hung. Richard Michael Hayden. Brittany Megan Hicks. Abigail Joy Heemstra. Victoria Ho. Matthew Brian Hounslow. Jason Yiu Ting Hung. Ebram Ibrahim. Caitlin Jane Jarrett. Brandon David Gilleson. Victoria Lilla Johnston. Amanda Nicole Jones. Raphael Davis Calatil. Christopher David Kalopsis. Navot Kantor. Puneet Kaur. Lana Kovacevic. Nicole Alisa Krasko. Alexander Bauer Kuntz. Lucas Mauro Labriola. Megan Lancaster. Natalie Michelle Langstaff. Jonathan Boyd Leendertz. Jordan Tyler Leonard. Kasia Victoria Lewandowski. Jessica Joan Lee. Donata Tin Yan Ling. Stephanie Nicole Lipsky. Samantha Elizabeth Leprich. Elena May Koch-Leung. Jamal Lynch. Lindsay Kathleen MacDonald. Tanner Nicholas McKenzie. Stephanie Brooke McNeil. James A. McWhirter. Ahmed Mahdi. Catherine Maitland. Dina Malik. Rachel Erin Martini. Brittany Catherine Martorano. Taylor Matson. Alison Sarah McFadden. Seema Meera Baran Ipur. Melissa May Merrow. Sandra Mikhail. Christine Haley Min. Andrea Gillian Minaka. Elliot Montag. Vanessa Jane Moore. Joshua Michael Patrick Mueller. Robert Gabriel Paul Murray. Helly Nike. Najwa Najjar. Megan Nederveen. Jamie Kathleen Neefs. Joseph Austin Nemeth. Lily Hue T. Nguyen. Yejin No. James Daniel Noordam. Bianca Revlon Norman Miller. Shivinda Oberoi. Jeffrey Walter Ogilvie. Tierra Marie Claire Pacheco. Daniel Alex Pardo. Arpita Parmar. Vanessa Pereira. Nicole Marie Plati. Andrew William Powell Blacklock. Robin Alexa Prince. John Eric Rasmussen. Alistair Timothy Llewellyn Rathbone. Michelle Roshna. Nadia Julie Rossi. Ethan Robert Saucier. Daniel Robert Silva. Lauren Elizabeth Skelly. Corey Dean Ronald Sleep. Brittany Johanna So. Christopher Spadaforo. Danielle Sharna Suruji. Victoria Jane Stite. Carly Danielle Steer. Kaylee Stock. Christina Strashak. Laura Marie Tamboso. Jessica Tat. Thirusan Thiru Chelvam. Bryn Sylvia Thistle. Caroline Tong. Brandon Thornton. Daphne Toe. Christine Hillary Shearhart. Alicia Michelle Turner. Melanie Nina van der Hoop. Eleanor Hillary Althea van der Meer. Supriya Verma. Michelle Mary Ward. Sarah Elizabeth Wardrop. Vanessa Eileen Weir. Laura Midori Wickham. Megan Elizabeth Yeoman. Gordon Young. Jordan Lee Francis Young. Rafiq Zaki. Renata A. Zambo. Mr. Chancellor, may I present to you the following graduates of the degree Bachelor of Science. Catherine Lorraine Condon. Christian Edward de Freitas. Daniel D. Simone. Michelle Dolmeyer. Ashley Etier. Amanda Rose Fraser. Gregory Marcus. Julia Michelle Rutledge. Tivia Seo Soti. Mr. Chancellor, may I present to you the following graduates of the degree Bachelor of Science, Kinesiology. Tiffany Lai. Garrick Mock.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to introduce to you Ms. Paige Burgess, a graduate of the Bachelor of Science Honours Program, who will be delivering the valedictory address.
There is an ancient proverb that says, "It takes a whole village to raise a child." As today is the day that we officially become scientists, I ask, if it takes a whole village to bring up a child, what exactly does it take to raise a scientist? Friends, family, faculty members, and fellow classmates. A lot of people would say it takes caffeine to raise a scientist. To be more specific, large daily doses of caffeine sustained for about 3 to 4 years. Considering my own experiences and the experiences of my peers over the past few years, I certainly recognize the power of coffee and energy drinks. However, I am honored to have the privilege to stand before you today with absolute certainty that it too takes a whole village to raise a scientist. In our case, this village is called McMaster. Graduates, I'm sure you agree that McMaster is a wonderful place. Its diverse city, beautiful campus, and unique learning opportunities are just a few examples of its many positive attributes. But from the moment that McMaster becomes our home, it's obvious that its most outstanding element is the people that have built this community. Collectively, professors, staff members, and students raised every single scientist in this room. Learning from these bright and innovative minds, whether they were standing at the front of the lecture hall or sitting beside us while we scribbled down notes is at the heart of our McMaster experience. But as we reflect on our community and its people, we realize not only what we gained from being a part of it, but that we have contributed as well. Class of 2013, we were shaped by a wonderful community, but in true McMaster spirit, we also gave back and created the village that will raise future generations of McMaster scientists. As we complete this chapter of our lives, I leave you with a word of advice, and that is to never have one definitive answer for that big question, what do you want to do with your life? Parents, you can relax. By this, I don't mean to encourage the transformation of your attic, garage, or basement into a permanent dwelling for your McMaster graduate. But instead, my fellow classmates, I hope you leave today knowing that this degree has given us the ability to continually explore, push boundaries, challenge ideas, and remain open-minded to the boundless possibility for the future. After all, McMaster does not lead its scientists to a final destination, but instead affords us a lifetime of never-ending personal and intellectual growth. So, as you embark on your next adventure, living your own ever-changing and limitless journey, always remember that you are a scientist raised by the village of McMaster. Congratulations, class of 2013.
Paige, thank you so much for representing, I think, many of the hopes and aspirations of all the graduates here in the room today. I would now like to call upon our Acting Dean of Science, Dr. Peter Sutherland, who will present the Jensen Medal.
Mr. Chancellor, it is with great pleasure that I announce the winner of the Jensen Medal for Excellence in Biology and Pharmacology, Michael Milnick. Please come forward.
May I introduce to you Ms. Sandra Stevenson, a representative of the McMaster Alumni Association, who will now deliver the Alumni Association address.
Chancellor Wilson, President Dean, McMaster faculty, fellow alumni, honored guests, and members of McMaster Class 2013. There is an unwritten contract that says that everyone who speaks at Convocation must offer advice to the graduating class. So in preparing my comments today, I tried to recall what advice had been imparted to me when I graduated from Mac 35 years ago. Unfortunately, though, my old brain could remember little about that day, except that it was the 70s and we all had bad hair. Other Mac grads, though, have chimed in with advice. Not long ago, your McMaster Alumni Association asked over 160,000 alumni around the world to send in advice for new grads like you. We called it the Good Advice Project, and here today is a selection of our favorites. Think before you act. Keep your eyes open. Know when to keep your mouth shut. Honesty promotes happiness. Make sure you travel. And perhaps the strangest of all, beware of snowflakes. All actual advice from honest-to-goodness McMaster alumni. The Alumni Association will continue inviting advice from our members, including you, as we'll be asking new grads to provide wisdom to incoming Mac students. We think this kind of support from one generation of McMaster family to the next is important because every McMaster class, regardless of era, shares at least two things with all others. The first is the great potential you have as new graduates of one of the world's greatest universities. The second is that we all share a familiar connection with McMaster and to each other, and a responsibility to build on the legacy we have inherited. The McMaster Alumni Association is here to help you to maintain that connection. You have in your hands our Convocation booklet that describes our programs. You can be part of MAC 10, a program for graduates of the last decade. Watch for the Alumni magazine, the McMaster Times, in your mailbox or online, and follow us on all the social media that's out there. Access value-added services like home, auto, and life insurance, and join your fellow alumni at over 100 events in Hamilton, across Canada, and throughout the world. There is a place for all of you in the McMaster Alumni Association, and there are so many ways to remain connected, from casual users of our social media all the way up to being a highly engaged volunteer, like our Chancellor, a proud member of the class of '62, and upon whom the Alumni Association just bestowed its highest honor, the Distinguished Service Award. And so, may I say to you, the class of 2013, we celebrate your success as students and toast the promise of your futures as alumni. Your fellow Mac grads are proud to welcome you to the McMaster alumni family.
May I now invite Dr. Dean back to the podium to deliver his President's Address.
This ceremony has been wonderful, as Convocation always is. It has been a celebration of all of you and of your individual achievements. As Paige pointed out, two of the McMaster family, the village in which, as of today, you've succeeded to a different kind of membership, but also of our society, which accords to universities a privileged status and generous support, in return for which we provide not only brilliant and energetic leaders for tomorrow, but also the new ideas and discoveries that will shape our future. Convocation is a communal event because it celebrates our community, its values, and its aspirations. So this is a time to contemplate where you fit in. Not only within the McMaster community, although Sandra gave you some very good ideas about how you might fit within the alumni community, but more broadly, where you might fit in our society and in our world. 3 years ago, at my first McMaster Convocation, I tried to describe where I saw myself fitting in, and I spoke about the idea of education as integrity, about my belief that education is diminished in its value and in its effect when it falls out of touch with the full panoply of human concerns. So in keeping with that belief, the question I would ask you to consider today is this: where will your university education eventually find its value, and where would you hope to see its greatest effect? How will your life as the proud holder of a McMaster degree intersect with and address the large questions facing our species and our planet? Ronald Dworkin, the eminent legal philosopher from whom I quoted on this platform 3 years ago, identifies the issue in this way, and this is what he says: living must be more than finding oneself pulled by unexamined habit through worn grooves of expectation and reward. And he continues, no respectable or even intelligible theory of value supposes that making and spending money has any value or importance in itself, and almost everything people buy with that money lacks any importance as well. That is Dworkin. And Dworkin prompts us to be always mindful of the value of what we do, and to understand that value in qualitative rather than quantitative terms. And this takes us back to Page's comments about what it takes to produce a scientist. Value is something that resides in relationship, in between people and things, between people and ideas, between people and our earth, and it is to be measured, if at all, in effect. There's a rather bleak passage elsewhere in Dworkin when he expresses the nature of our condition. He says this, the only value we can find in living in the foothills of death as we do is adverbial value. It is about describing words. How we live is a matter of value. That we live and die is merely a matter of fact. Now, Ronald Dworkin died at the age of 81 in February of this year, having produced in 2011 his last major work, which sought to bring together the different strands of his thinking, political philosophy, moral philosophy, the theory of interpretation, and so on. He chose a delightfully enigmatic title for that book. It is called Justice for Hedgehogs. Now, this is the point at which, mindful of the fact that I'm in a room full of scientists, you need to prepare yourselves for the onset of metaphor rather than biologically accurate understandings of hedgehogs. The title, Dworkin tells us, is actually derived from a fragmentary line by the ancient Greek poet Archilochus, which became quite popular in the early part of the 20th century through the work of Isaiah Berlin. And this is how the line reads. The fox knows many things, but the hedgehog knows one big thing. And Dworkin uses this line to contrast two ways of viewing the world. The first, the way of the fox, regards phenomena as serial, separate, and individual, while the second, the hedgehog, sees phenomena as not merely connected but integrated, not a series but a singularity. For Dworkin, value is one big thing, integrated, a singularity. Now, I'm not going to try to unpack this assertion in all of its complexity, except to refer you back to my observation that value is something which resides in relationships and that has no existence outside of relationships. At one level, this simply means that the realm of ethics and morals is community, the network of relationships through which we have an opportunity to do more than merely live. It also means that moral and ethical values are of necessity interconnected and interdependent. A life does not realize its potential value through compartmentalization. Think about this scenario. To be ruthless and uncompromising in the workplace, in the office, and yet at home, loving and solicitous in the family. What kind of a life is this? What can we say about its value? If value resides in the adverbs which describe our actions and the adjectives which describe us, how does the equation that links ruthlessness to lovingness work out? Does it resolve as zero? Only the hedgehog knows. I'm reminding you I'm talking metaphor here. The point about the hedgehog's view that is worth remembering is this. The value of a life is the sum of its qualitative interactions with the world, immediate and remote, direct and indirect, private and public, professional and recreational. And integrity, as we commonly understand the word, resides in the consistency with which we apply ourselves in all of those realms. We have integrity when we act not according to values that change with circumstance, as circumstances present themselves, but as if our value as persons is one big thing. Now, notwithstanding Dworkin's very critical comments about the value of money and of what can be bought with it, the world of finance does provide an analogy that is useful for thinking about the project of being a worthwhile human being. In the same way that your accountant, if you have one, or your accountant when you eventually have one, won't allow you in the final analysis to separate your assets from your liabilities, won't let you ignore the latter and concentrate on the former just because to do so makes you feel wealthier, the hedgehog insists that in accounting for the value of your being on earth, everything must be counted in. Now, I happen to notice that in anticipation for today's convocation, many of you went out and invested in some new clothes. A new shirt, new tie, dress, shoes perhaps. I'm not a shopping theorist or expert, except, like most people, an occasionally enthusiastic amateur in the field. But I know that into your deliberations in the clothes store as you stood at the rack will sooner or later have come thoughts about the value of the garment you were thinking of buying. A primary consideration for most people would be the asking price, which, as you move from considerations of affordability and then to use, turns into an assessment of the garment's value. And typically, the context within which we find and attribute value to a shirt or a dress is very narrow. The garment may earn you cachet in a fashionable circle of which you'd like to be a part. It may say something about you that you once said. Or the garment may simply be attractive. It may simply delight your eye. It's a very famous statement of St. Thomas, which goes this way. In Latin, it's pulchrum est id quod visum placet. Translated, it means, beauty is that which being seen pleases. And sometimes one encounters something beautiful in life about which one has those sorts of feelings. But value is neither essential nor tautological, however. Things have different value for different people in different circumstances. And in the kind of commercial moment I've just been describing, the garment becomes simply a nexus for various intersecting value propositions. Yours, the stores, the manufacturers, the advertisers. And this is the key point. It is in the interest of all those people, especially the retailer, to keep the context within which you assess the value of their commodity simple and narrow, to compartmentalize the buyer with the product so that only value of the most personal kind can be attributed or discovered. So going back to Archilochus's contrast between the hedgehog and the fox, I would say that commerce functions by making foxes of us all. It encourages us to encounter the world serially and without reference to the one big thing. After the April 24th collapse of the Rana Plaza garment factory in Bangladesh, which killed more than 1,100 workers, can shopping for clothes ever again be the kind of fox-like, somewhat self-involved activity that I've been describing? Now, no doubt for some people it can and will. And there will be those, I suppose, whose capacity for compartmentalization is so advanced that exploitation and human suffering expended in the production of a garment does not factor into their assessment of its value to them. I thought of this recently in the men's section of a well-known department store, where for the first time I noticed, because recent events had prompted me to look, that by far the majority of the shirts available were made in Bangladesh, where, as we all recently learned, a worker's life is frequently very cheap to her employer, and where the minimum monthly salary for a garment worker is 3,000 takas, approximately $38, or more significantly, approximately half of what my Canadian retailer is asking me to pay for one of the thousands of shirts that are shipped from that factory daily. My purpose today is not to debate the merits and demerits of commerce or to venture into the realm of business ethics, although I have ventured into the realm of biology somewhat hazardously for a professor of literature. But I've seized on the Bangladesh garment workers' tragedy and our daily involvement with it through the clothes we buy and wear as an illustration of why it is impossible to live a good life without taking the hedgehog's view, without understanding that value, as we ascribe it to our lives, to others, and to objects, is one big thing, or rather that we must at all times behave as if it is one big thing. The inhumane treatment of workers in Bangladesh must be reckoned by me as I assess the value of a garment I'm being invited to purchase. If I do not do that, my own value as a human being is diminished. There's a character in a very well-known novel by E.M. Forster who enjoins her family in this way: only connect, she says, live in fragments no longer. And in some ways, that is the message of the hedgehog and the message of the Dworkin analogy I've been trying to draw. In Dworkin's analogy, it is the hedgehog who sees the world in its interconnectedness and who understands his own value in being of the whole and acting for the good of the whole. So this convocation ceremony provides an opportunity to ask you to take your McMaster degrees and to go out into the world in that same spirit, if not confident in your ability to transform the world, at least determined to live in it with integrity and dignity. Farewell, hedgehogs.
Thank you very much, President Dean, for an inspirational and wise set of words. From your talk and from Dr. Vranich's talk, I took away 5 words and one that I need to explore further: passion, originality, perseverance, integrity, and value. And I want to know more about the hedgehog. But I think with those words of wisdom, there's very little for me to add as advice for you on this day. And I simply want to congratulate all of you and wish you all the very best as you venture out into the next phase of your lives. Congratulations to you all. I'm asked to announce that flowers that have been delivered for graduates will be available at the coat check in the main lobby. I'd ask you to please remain standing at your seats until the academic procession and the graduates have left the hall. I'd ask you now to please rise and join with me in the singing of our national anthem. After the singing of the anthem, this convocation stands adjourned.